Ethan Behrman, Left Coast News.
Thanks for joining me for Dispatch 36. I'm struggling with the title of this one, and I want your feedback. Is it Trump hates the world or Trump versus the world? I'm leaning towards hate, but I also understand the versus. I want to see your feedback, so put a comment below. Send me your feedback at leftcoastnews@ethanbehrman.com, because I'm saying Trump hates the world because he keeps rolling back environmental laws. He said no warning labels on Roundup, even though there's enough evidence now that courts are finding that Bayer Monsanto is responsible. He says go ahead and spray chemicals that kill bees, go ahead and spray chemicals that kill people. And then he just announced that they want to weaken the Endangered Species Act while nearly 1 million species are at threat of extinction right now. We're in the middle, according to scientists, of the 6th mass extinction event. There have been 5 mass extinctions throughout the world's history. The last one was 65 million years ago, and we're in the middle of another one because of biological annihilation. And he says, yeah, go ahead. If there's money to be made, go ahead and kill off a species. Look, that's where we are. So, or is it versus the world because of his new rules regarding legal immigrants to the United States that was announced yesterday, that they're going to enforce something that hasn't been enforced for a very long time. And it's this public charge rule. They're going to promulgate the rule that was approved by Congress back in 1996. And it was done in a bipartisan manner, saying, you can't just live on government services when you come to the United States. You're going to have to, have some method of providing or relying on your family to some degree. But the difference is now the Trump administration is putting teeth behind that. So is it versus the world or he hates the world? So let me dig in a little bit further on what I consider to be an abject failure of the Trump administration. It is one of the most hideous things I have seen, because we've had great success with the Endangered Species Act. We've saved species like the bald eagle. We have saved species like wolves. We have saved so much of the world. I mean, remember, the Endangered Species Act was signed into law by some crazy liberal? No, not a crazy liberal. President Richard Milhous Nixon in 1973. We have the peregrine falcon, we have the humpback whale, the Tennessee purple coneflower, the Florida manatee are all saved because of the Endangered Species Act. But now we have people saying, well, by golly, I need to make more money. You know, those tax cuts that Trump gave me that's putting us so deep into debt. We have $1 trillion deficit this year thanks to the Trump-Republican tax cuts that make the wealthy even wealthier, that type of thing. No. We're going to say now that it's giving authority to say, consider how much money is at stake. So instead of just saying, is the species threatened? Is it about to become extinct? No, we're going to say, how much money can you make? So the Republicans have really tried hard over these last couple of years. They couldn't quite get it through the Senate. And so they're doing it through a promulgation of rules, which is part of the administrative state that Steve Bannon hates so much, which now they're taking full advantage of, which, by the way, I warned when President Obama kept doing executive actions that the next president can undo it. Well, this rule can be undone as well. So, but again, environmentalists, human pressures are poised to drive 1 million species into extinction right now. And we're going to roll it back. The total number that have been saved since the entire Endangered Species Act was created in 1973 is 1,650 total were listed as threatened or endangered. 47 has been delisted because the population's rebounded. It works. So I don't know about you, but when I look at that and I go, well, why would you suddenly say, hey, we've got all these species on the brink. We know that climate change is happening. We know that even younger Republicans, the data now show that Gen Z and millennial Republicans, the majority agree that climate change is a human-caused problem that we must address. It's only Gen X and older Republicans now who are the minority that say, well, there's something to debate here with climate change. I don't even care about the cause anymore. It's clear what is happening in our world. It's clear that some species aren't going to handle it. Some of them are going to go extinct simply because of what we've done to the world. Why would you make that worse? Why would you dig in your heels and say, yeah, let's accelerate this? So John Barrasso is a Wyoming Republican who leads the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, said that the enforcement is a good start, but he wants to continue working to change the act. This is unbelievable. So that's why I say he hates the world, because he's killing it off. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. Look, not a perfect climate accord, but he pulled out of it unilaterally. He's rolling back the rules to improve fuel efficiency of automobiles and light trucks. He's denying California the right to do that. He's doing everything. He's expanding oil and gas production at rates that we just haven't even seen. He opened up something like 1 million new acres, and he's talking about more offshore drilling. He's talking about opening up, and he has now opened up for potential new drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. He's doing everything he can to accelerate this process. And I just want to say this one more time. A United Nations report warned just this May 2019, more than 1 million plants and animals globally face extinction, some soon, mostly due to human influence between climate change and other threats, destroying their habitat, destroying their wildlife, in addition to climate change. So let's hurry it up and kill as many as we can. And I know some Republicans are going to point that they finally were able to take a rhino DNA and reproduce it, even though it's no longer in the wild, so we can maybe reintroduce extinct species. Not the same thing, doesn't let us off the hook. So what do you think? Trump hates the world? So let's talk about Trump versus the world. So we have the Statue of Liberty. We are a nation exclusively of immigrants. We're a nation of mostly very poor immigrants when they came to the United States. They were fleeing persecution in the countries where they come from, be it religious, ethnic, tribal persecution, economic persecution, Jews, Germans, Irish, British Protestants, for that matter, when they came here. They were fleeing persecution because they didn't want to be part of the Anglican Church. This is what our country is made of. All of us, other than Native Americans, who we've violated darn near every treaty we've ever signed with Native Americans. What a great country we are when it comes to that topic. We are a nation of immigrants. And people like one of our presidential candidates, Beto O'Rourke, talks about the fact that it's the strength of our immigrants. We know that immigrants commit crime at a lower rate than native-born people. We know that immigrants contribute significantly. Every economic study shows that the second generation and beyond have a gigantically outsized net positive economic effect in the United States. Immigrants. And by the way, you like food? Oh my God, what are you going to do without all of the food from our immigrants? Italian food. Hey, you didn't let those Italians in. We wouldn't have all that Italian food. You like Chinese food? All of this. But humans have a problem of the in-group, out-group. We see a new group coming in. We see things changing. We don't like it. And this administration appeals to the dark side, literally the Jungian shadow, which allows us to, we all have these feelings. You're lying if you say that you don't have it somewhere in you. We all have that in us because it's built into us from when we lived on the savannas or in caves or wherever that we lived historically. We had to, biologically, we were programmed to be suspicious of outsiders because they were trying to kill us. They were trying to murder us, take our stuff, rape the women, and procreate their own way without the men to interfere, and often they would kill the women and children too. So we're naturally suspicious of those who are different from us, but we're not living on the savannah. We're not living in caves. We aren't Neanderthals. We aren't Denisovan people. We aren't whatever that ancient DNA is in us. we're better than that, and we're conscious people now. And so it's a conscious effort to move past that. And so when Ken Cuccinelli, the acting director of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, announces that he's, by the way, a former Virginia Attorney General who's always been a hardliner, perfect Trumpian when it comes to immigration and asylum policy, says, yeah, you know what? Even legal immigrants, if you have 12 months of welfare, you're going to potentially get booted out of this country for it now. So like if you're an agricultural worker and there's a downturn because we have a trade war going with China, so the farmers have to lay off all the farm workers because Trump started a trade war with China that was supposedly so good and easy to win. And guess what? It's not when you have an authoritarian regime that can outlast us when we declare a unilateral trade war without any allies in the war. I'm all for taking on China. The way he went about it was all wrong. Totally wrong. So you work on a farm, you're an immigrant laborer, and you get laid off because your farm can't export to China anymore, and you have to go on benefits, food stamps, welfare, whatever, SNAP, any of these programs, Medi-Cal, MediFresh, CalFresh here in California, you'll get booted out of this country for it. Over no fault of your own. Or if you work in construction and we have an economic downturn, screw you, get out of here. Legal. We're talking about legal immigrants with green cards now. And here's what makes it worse, why I say Trump versus the world. And I want to know what you think. Which one is it? Comment below. Is it Trump hates the world or Trump versus the world? Here's what Ken Cuccinelli said on NPR to Rachel Martin this morning, Tuesday, August 13th, 2019. Take a listen to this.
They certainly are. Give me your tired and your poor who can stand on their own 2 feet and who will not become a public charge. That plaque was put on the Statue of Liberty at almost the same time as the first public charge law was passed.
The beacon of liberty dims under this administration. That is one of the most abjectly wrong and horrific misquotes and rephrasing of what is on that plaque. The plaque on the Statue of Liberty reads, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." That's what the beacon of liberty is. To breathe free because you're absolutely abused, you're subjugated, you're murdered in your home country. My people came from mostly Eastern Europe where it was, you're Jewish, you're going to have to live in this neighborhood. Oh, when things get tough, we're just going to kill you. So we fled that to come to the United States. So did many Germans. So did many Irish. So did Somalis from the Middle East. So did Lebanese from the Middle East. So did so many others, Italians. I was talking to a woman whose grandparents immigrated from Italy and here in California, to California. They came straight to California, where California actually has a huge Italian history, especially along the coast. They were fishermen and they were workers and shop owners and everything else. And when she told me that she always wondered why they didn't speak Italian at home because they were native Italian speakers. So they would speak it amongst themselves, but they never spoke it to her. And she ended up finding out later. I'm relaying this story, what she told me. This is an exceptionally educated and informed individual that I'm talking about. She told me that when the Japanese were getting rounded up during World War II and put into their internment camps, this is an Italian descendant woman, and they were rounding up the Japanese, all of the Italians hung up their American flags and they made sure to speak only English as much as they could. And they would only whisper Italian at home, is what her grandmother told her. And why is this? Because they were sure that the Italians were next to be rounded up and stuck in the camps with the Japanese. That is the history of our country. That is the hatred of the other. That is why what Ken Cuccinelli said is so unfathomably, irrationally sick and wrong to say what he said. We love, we support, we take care of the other. And any person who claims Christianity, anybody else who claims Judaism throughout the Tanakh, if you're Jewish, throughout the Bible, in Jesus' own words, if you're Christian, if you don't bother reading Matthew 25, then that is on you. But let me read it for you to wrap this show. I'm going to start at verse 35 for my Christian friends who seem to forget this, who support Trump. I was a stranger and you took me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these my brethren, you did it to me. So is it Trump hates the world or Trump versus the world? Want to hear from you. Comment below. Thank you so much. Please share. Most important thing you can do. Send me your comments, leftcoastnews@ethanbehrman.com. I'll talk with you in the next dispatch.